Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Our prolonged cold spell continues with the chance for some snow on Saturday. We'll show you what we know right now and when we expect to know a little bit more coming up.
Plus, preparing for your commute. We're going to give you a live look all this morning through the WRAL Storm Tracker where you're looking right now. We are checking out for some of those slick spots, including on secondary roads. We'll talk about where you may want to take it slow this morning. And awaiting a decision. Today, the jury will resume deliberations in the trial of the man accused of murdering 2 teenagers in 2022 in Orange County. The timeline of when we could expect a verdict. Hey, thanks for waking up with us here bright and early. Well, I guess not bright, dark and early, I suppose. 4:30 here at WRAL News. I'm Chris Lemongood. We have my buddy here, Chris Michaels, taking a look at your weather forecast as you're waking up. Spoiler alert, still cold out.
Still cold. Yeah, you know, it's funny. Every time I say goodbye to Elizabeth for the day, I'm like, see you dark and early tomorrow morning. And it's just this whole joke. Anyways, yeah, starting out with still some sleet on the ground outside the WRAL Azalea Garden. Sleet takes a long time to melt, so it's still hanging out with us here early on this Wednesday morning. Roanoke Rapids starting at 22, Southern Pines 24, Fayetteville 26, Durham and Raleigh at 29 degrees. So the clouds kind of bailing us out from reaching the teens this morning. But your morning drive in, watch for a few of those slick spots on side roads, driveways, and sidewalks. Temperatures low to mid 20s. By midday, we're in the low to mid 30s, and heading into the afternoon, a little bit of thinning in the cloud cover and high temperatures still in the upper 30s. And then you see the bitter cold continues with temperatures in the teens for the next several mornings. Highs in the 30s through Friday, and then there's Saturday. Kind of sticks out to you with highs in the 20s, at which point we'll be tracking a storm system that forms along the coast. We are seeing some increasing confidence in at least the chance for some snow. So out of an abundance of caution, Saturday is a WRAL weather alert day. Yes, it'll be cold. A system will be close by. The two things in tandem give us the chance for some snow. In terms of putting out any totals, our first map will probably come out at some point tomorrow. So here we are in the forecast process, 3 to 4 days away. And the one thing that we can at least take some solace in is that we're not looking at freezing rain Saturday. It would mainly be snow. But I'll at least give you some odds of snow totals coming up in a few minutes, according to the latest data coming up.
All right, sounds great, Chris. We'll come back to you. There are some lingering slick spots on some secondary roads this morning. And as the cold hangs around after this weekend's winter weather, this is why we wanted to make sure that we sent out the WRAL Storm Tracker. In fact, that's where we find Ali Kadhabar in the North Hills in Raleigh this morning. And Ali, I mean, you've been driving out there for a little bit, and you are coming across these very slick spots.
Yeah, and for the most part, those main roads like we saw yesterday are pretty clear, but I'm going to turn the camera to what we're seeing on some of those side roads, those neighborhood roads. You can see that turning lane is just covered in some ice. If it looks wet, again, it is probably ice. Now, we do want to bring your attention to what we just heard Chris Michaels talk about, the potential for snow this weekend. Now, if you're wondering if all of these slick spots are going to linger, they most likely will, because sleet takes longer to melt. So these shaded spots that you're seeing on the side here in the shoulder with the icy spots, those icy sidewalks, the patches of ice in driveways and parking lots, that'll probably linger through the weekend. So just something you need to be aware of. You need to be careful. Don't be too confident, because I know I was too confident yesterday and I almost slipped. So just make sure you're taking it slow and being very careful. Reporting live in Raleigh, Ali Kadhabar, WRAL News.
Now, we are also monitoring school schedule changes for local school districts. Wake and Durham, for example, these schools are among others that will be remote again today. Lee and Moore County will have a 2-hour delay, and Mecklenburg schools in Virginia will be closed. But you can find a full list of closings and delays over on our website, WRAL.com. Authorities are reminding people of why it is so dangerous to walk on frozen ponds and lakes during this cold snap. On Monday, 3 brothers in Texas, ages 9, 8, and 6, died after falling into a frozen pond. Less than 10 years ago, a Cary boy had a close call after standing on a pond and falling in there. Park Ranger John Bannerman says people need to be careful no matter how solid the ice may appear.
Especially in this part of the country, no ice is safe ice. We get occasional Arctic outbreaks, and you'll see upper reaches of the lake, maybe some creek arms that have a sheet of ice over it, but you don't know how thick it is.
Says that it's best to avoid going to a frozen body of water altogether, but if you have to go, never go alone. If you fall in, tell the person you're with not to try to pull you out, and that could lead to them falling in too if you don't. Instead, tell them to call for help. With the chance for more winter weather this weekend, now is the time to make sure you have the updated WRAL weather app. You will see updated videos, graphics, and minute-by-minute forecasts, but be sure you turn on those push notifications. That way you get important updates as soon as we learn them. WRAL is trying to learn new information this morning about a police investigation in Fuquay Arena. Look at this video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker. This was near NC 540 and US 401 just after 2 a.m. You can see police cars surrounding another vehicle there, and a canine was spotted searching the woods nearby. We are still trying to figure out what they are investigating and if anyone is in custody. Today, jurors in the Isaiah Ross trial will be back in the courtroom. The court is resuming after winter weather stopped that trial for the last 2 days. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey is live outside the courthouse there to talk a little bit more about this in Orange County. And Kelsey, we are getting closer to learning a verdict in this trial.
Yes, Chris, we could even be hours away from finding out what that verdict is. The jury met here at the Orange County Courthouse to deliberate for 2 days last week. This morning, they are going to be back in the courtroom. Isaiah Ross is accused of murdering 2 teens, Lyric Woods and Devin Clark, back in 2022. Ross's defense attorney argued that Ross shot Devin Clark in self-defense after Clark shot Woods. The prosecution says the shooting was not self-defense because the victims had gunshot wounds on their backs. Both closing arguments pointed to Christian Sykes' testimony. That's the man who says Ross confessed to him over Snapchat videos days after the murders. Sykes says he assumed Ross meant he shot Woods and Clark in the car. The defense argued the evidence doesn't support that. The prosecutor pointed out Ross did not mention self-defense to Sykes in 2022. So you can watch the live stream of the trial this morning on WRAL.com and turn on the notifications on your WRAL News app so you can be the first to know when that verdict comes in. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Orange County.
The man charged with killing UNC student Faith Hedgepeth back in 2012 will be able to call 2 out-of-state witnesses in his trial. Defense attorneys for Miguel Salguero Olivares filed the motions to make this happen, and a judge approved Hedgepeth's former roommate, Karina Rosario, and another former UNC student as witnesses. The defense argues Rosario's statements conflict with other accounts of what happened the night Hedgepeth was killed. But to be clear, Rosario has not been charged in this case. Hedgepeth's family and friends have endured numerous twists and turns in the investigation for more than a decade. And as the case prepares to head to trial this fall, you can read the history on WRAL.com. Just search the words Faith Hedgepeth. Today, the State Board of Elections will meet to discuss whether a North Carolina U.S. Senate candidate actually lives in Florida. A voter complaint alleges that Republican Margot Dupree actually lives in Florida, even though she listed a North Carolina address when she registered to run. Candidates for office must be North Carolina residents. Dupree tells WRAL she is a resident of our state, but declined to say where out of concern for her family. Election officials are expected to vote during today's hearing, and it starts at 9 a.m. You can go to the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com for updates on that story later. President Donald Trump is calling for an investigation after federal agents shot and killed Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. This news comes after a notice to Congress from Homeland Security. It says 2 officers fired their weapons 5 seconds after an agent yelled Preddy had a gun. That's according to NBC News. Preddy was a lawful gun owner. Video appears to show that the gun was removed from his waistband before the shooting. Federal officials initially claimed that Preddy was a domestic terrorist. In response to the shooting, the president is putting Border Czar Tom Homan in charge of immigration enforcement in Minnesota. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino was previously in charge and is now being sent to his job back in California. State lawmakers, including 2 North Carolina Republican senators, are also calling for an investigation. Senator Tom Tillis said that he had no confidence in Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. He says her incompetence on immigration and border security had taken the Trump administration into the ground. Tillis also criticized the Trump administration's response to natural disasters under Noem.
To give you an idea of how incompetent I think she is, she actually thought FEMA should be eliminated. And when she had a FEMA director said he didn't think that was a good idea, she fired him within 24 hours. Now she understands that that is an important part of her job. These are like amateurish assistant manager sort of thought processes going into somebody who's a secretary in a cabinet level position. It's unacceptable.
Last night, his colleague, Senator Ted Budd, also called for an investigation into Alex Preddy's shooting death. He shared this statement saying, quote, Preddy's death is a tragedy that should never have happened. His shooting must be fully investigated. Initial rushes to judgment did not meet the standards that Americans should expect from their government officials. Alex Brady was an ICU nurse at Minneapolis VA's hospital for 12 years. On Monday, dozens of his colleagues were pictured lining one of the hallways there, as you see here in these photos. They were holding a moment of silence in honor of him. And tonight, the union National Nurses United is holding a local candlelight vigil for Preddy. That will be outside the Durham VA main gate on Fulton Street at 6 p.m. NC State's men's basketball is finding their stride in ACC play after a big win over Syracuse. The Orange tried to keep it close, but the Wolfpack just kept that momentum going. NC State gets their third straight win against the Orange, 88-68. Their next game is at Wake Forest on Saturday. Your time is 4:40 this morning. Journey to D.C. The monks walking for peace will leave North Carolina today. The lasting impression their movement has left on our state. And we do want to give you a live look this morning, taking it outside at Franklin 10. Still loving those winter displays that are nice and blue this morning. But folks, it's another very cold morning, which is why meteorologist Chris Michaels will show you how many mornings we're going to stay in the teens and, of course, get you an update on Saturday's snow chances.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
444, some clouds out there saving us from dropping into the teens, although it is still very cold. It is January after all, so you expect it in Clayton to be about 24, Garner's at 28, Cary, Chapel Hill, and Wake Forest. Good morning. You're starting at 26 degrees. Exercise outlook for this morning. If you're a wimp like me, you're probably just heading to the gym, but definitely make sure you're watching the sidewalks if you plan on doing any running or biking this morning. Temperatures will be in the 20s up until about 9 o'clock. Some thinning clouds heading into the afternoon, staying cold with temperatures in the upper 30s, and the cold just keeps coming. Check out this area of low pressure diving down from Canada. This eventually is going to lead to a better chance of snow on Saturday. I'll show you where we stand right now and when we expect to know more about it coming up in a few.
All right, sounds good, Chris. Thank you. Folks, today marks 40 years since the Challenger space shuttle explosion. It exploded 73 seconds after launching. All 7 people aboard the shuttle, including North Carolina natives Ronald McNair and Mike Smith, were killed back in 1986. The explosion was a result of a rocket booster failure, and then after that explosion, there was a 32-month suspension of NASA's shuttle program. It also led to the creation of the Rogers Commission. That's a group created by Ronald Reagan to examine what went wrong. The Walk for Peace Buddhist monks will leave North Carolina today, and they spent their last night in Warrington and will head to Gasburg, Virginia today. Their time in our state has left a meaningful impression on everyone who has crossed their path, at least from the people we spoke with. Their time in our state is something that we are trying to get more on in terms of this family from Wake Forest. They drove to North Raleigh to see the monks walking, and they say the monks walked over to their 9-year-old son, Vincent, and gave him a bracelet. This was a huge deal, not just because of the spiritual significance of the bracelet, but because Vincent has autism and is nonverbal. The monks have about 200 miles left on their journey to Washington, D.C. They are expected to get there in a couple of weeks, but we will keep updating you on their journey here on WRAL. We'll also share updates on WRAL.com and our social media platforms. Investigators are trying to figure out what caused a fire in Raleigh. What you're seeing here is video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker on Kaplan Drive. The fire happened last night around 9. And the fire department says the property is owned by the Catholic Archdiocese of Raleigh, but no one lived there. The building was under construction, but it's unclear if that had anything to do with the fire. No one was injured in it. A Johnson County vape shop owner and his business partner are facing drug charges after an undercover investigation. Ahmed Al-Montasser and Mohammed Ahmed were arrested last week. According to new warrants, agents began investigating Al-Montasser's vape shops after 6 minors bought THC gummies. They were sick for days. Lab tests showed that some products contained THC levels that were well above the legal limit, and the men have since bonded out of jail. The measles outbreak in South Carolina is now the largest outbreak in the country, the one that we have seen in at least more than 25 years. The state has nearly 800 cases. It's the largest single outbreak since 2000, when U.S. health officials declared the virus eliminated. Well, the country is now at risk of losing its elimination status. Health officials could soon remove that title. Thousands of more UPS employees will soon be looking for new jobs. The company says it's adding an additional 30,000 positions, cutting, I should say, this year, as it is ending its partnership with Amazon. This comes after it cut nearly 50,000 roles last year. UPS says that it's a part of its turnaround strategy. UPS also says the separation will save the company about $3 billion. Happening today, leaders in Durham will discuss the ways to address homelessness in the area. The community conversation is hosted in partnership with city leaders, county government, and the nonprofit organization Housing for New Hope. Leaders will virtually give updates and break down strategies for reducing homelessness, and they will also share ways that you can help. Tonight's meeting starts at 7 p.m. And I tell you what, it's hard not to think about those who don't have homes right now, given how cold it is outside. Meteorologist Chris Michaels talking about just how cold people are waking up with this morning and the days ahead.
You know, temperatures this morning starting out in the 20s as we've got a little cloud cover that's helping to bail us out from the teens like we had yesterday morning, but it won't necessarily bail us out moving forward. As you see the next several mornings, temperatures in the teens is likely one of the coldest stretches we've had in our area since January of 2018. That's when a Cary teenager fell in a frozen pond. I actually pulled that story from our website in 2018. So just a reminder that if you see ice on ponds and lakes and things like that, to not try it, don't test it, just leave it be. Arctic air continues to come in thanks to high pressure that dives in out of the Arctic at the surface. And so you see that clockwise flow around it, bringing in the cold air. And at the same time, an area of low pressure develops near the coast. So this is a pattern that's favorable for snow by Saturday. So that's what we know right now, is that we're likely going to see at least some snow Saturday, but won't say any totals until tomorrow. The forecast data is doing a good job of handling the overall picture, but it's doing a poor job at handling the specifics, at least right now. This is what we can tell you, at least when you look at a group of forecast data. You can assign a probability as to how much you could see. Pretty decent shot of 1 or 3 inches, but as you go up the ruler to 6 or 12 inches, the probability of that goes down. So again, our first call snow map will probably come out at some point tomorrow. This is a pretty normal part of the process. It takes some time. In the meantime, it's cold enough for snow right now, but just some clouds, none of which are going to go producing any precipitation this morning. South Hill and Clinton at 24, so is Southern Pines. Fayetteville's at 26, Rocky Mount, Wilson, and Goldsboro at 28 degrees. So again, the clouds kind of saving us from falling into the teens for the time being. We'll be in the 20s for the next several hours, climbing above freezing by midday, and high temperatures in the upper 30s. And we expect more of the same as we go through the next several days, with overnight lows tonight mainly between about 16 and 21 degrees. So out the door tomorrow morning, it will be frigid once again. So highs in the 30s through Friday. So ahead of any kind of snow, you have time to prepare ahead of Saturday. Good thing is with that, we're not expecting freezing rain, so it'd just be light, fluffy, powdery snow. It's just determining how much before that system moves out by Sunday. Chris?
All right, thank you for tracking all that for us, Chris. Your time is 4:50. Upcoming battles, the commercials headed to Super Bowl 60 and Sinners and the running for awards. What's happening ahead in Hollywood Minute? Plus, end of a cold era, the decision at a North Carolina university to stop a 30-year-old tradition. Well, countdown to Super Bowl 60 is on, and we are getting a first look at this year's commercials. David Daniel has that and more in today's Hollywood Minute.
Touching hand, touching cheese, touching you, sweet sandwich time.
Andy Samberg channels Neil Diamond, turning a diner into a concert hall in the new Super Bowl ad for Hellmann's Mayonnaise. Making her big game commercial debut, self-proclaimed Mayo superfan Elle Fanning.
I'll be seeing you very soon.
Not if I see you first.
The top 2 Oscar contenders will also do battle at the BAFTAs. One battle after another leads this year's BAFTA Film Awards nominations with 14, followed closely by Sinners with 13 nominations. The 79th British Academy Film Awards take place February 22nd in London.
I know it feels like it's the end of the world, but it's not. I saw the end of the world. I had a ringside seat for it.
A Holocaust survivor who's never told his story connects with an alienated teenager in The Optimist. Stephen Lang from Avatar and Elsie Fisher from 8th Grade star in the drama. The first trailer just dropped. The Optimist, based on a true story, opens in theaters March 11th. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Well, Neil Young is gifting a year of free access to his music archive to people in Greenland. The legendary rock star is calling it a gesture of kindness and respect. And this comes in response to President Donald Trump's push to take over the semi-autonomous territory of Denmark. The town of Apex is, the downtown specifically, getting a fresh look. Construction on the town's Salem Streetscape project starts today, and there's going to be new walkways and lights and a pedestrian-friendly design. That project costs about $2 million more than what was first estimated. The mayor blames construction delays and inflation, but work is expected to last through October. After 30 years, students at East Carolina University will take their final polar plunge this week. The tradition started back in 1997. Students basically jump into the freezing cold rec center pool, but the university did not share why it was ending that tradition. The final plunge is on Friday at 5:30 p.m. And at 5 o'clock, watching for a verdict. Today, the jurors in the Isaiah Ross trial are back in court. The timeline for a decision in the double murder case. And new details in a weekend standoff in Garner. The new security video giving us a closer look at what led to this moment. Plus, getting off the ice. Icy patches are covering the top of ponds and lakes because of cold weather. The safety warning from North Carolina officials.